Today's recipe is for another just add water meal in a jar. This one is for green chili cheesy rice. I'll be adding some meat to this to make it a full meal. It cooks right on the stovetop and is ready in under 30 minutes. If you try this and like it, you could assemble several of these jars to have on hand. This one is really tasty, y'all. Well, hi there, everyone. My name is Kareth. I'm a wife, a mom, an author, and a cook. On this channel, I like to create recipes using freeze-dried food. Sometimes it's completely shelf-stable, like a meal or a mix in a jar. Other times, I combine freeze-dried with fresh, but all the time, it's delicious. I'm here to help people who have freeze-dried food on their shelves to know how to cook with it. I test out recipes so you don't have to. Welcome to the Freeze-Dried Foodie. This dish is especially tasty, and I think that comes from the combination of the cheese sauce and the chilies and jalapenos that I put in here, as well as the seasonings, of course. So this dish can be served as a side dish, but I like it as main dish, so I'm going to add some pulled pork to it. You could use chicken, you could use any kind of freeze-dried meat. My preference is that medium grain rice. I have been able to get that at Walmart for years, but you could use long grain or basmati or jasmine. Whatever kind of rice you like, you can use in this dish. It will work. What I'll do is I'll put a list up on the screen of the ingredients that you'll need to make this dish, but that's just like an overview. I put the exact measurements in the description box below the video, so if you want to, you can make this dish yourself at home. Now, I used to sell Thrivalist freeze-dried foods, but they went out of business. So most of my food is that brand, but you could use whatever brand you have, including your own home freeze-dried ingredients, to make these meals in jars that I show you on my channel. Now, I'm going to be serving 4 people. So I've got a quart-sized jar, and I'm going to make enough to serve 4. But if you only want to serve 2, then just cut all these measurements in half and put it in a pint-sized jar. That would totally work. So you'll start with some raw, uncooked rice in the bottom of the jar. And then to that, I'm going to be adding some green chili peppers. I love them. They're so good in this dish. The flavor that these green chilies bring to the meal is unique. And if you have had Hatch green chilies before, you know what I'm talking about. They're not too spicy with heat, but they are full of flavor. Now, like I mentioned, I like to make this into a main dish. So my preference here is the pulled pork. But not everybody likes pork, not everybody has pork, and not everybody is comfortable with using the pulled pork in a meal in a jar. And that's because Thrivalist always said, if you don't use this within a couple of weeks, then you need to freeze it or refrigerate it at least. So I understand people might be hesitant to use this as a meal in a jar. I'm comfortable with it, but that is up to you. Like food safety, you do your due diligence and do what you need to do. I'm going to use pulled pork, and then I'm going to vacuum seal that, and I don't have a problem with it. But if you want to, you could always make this up and leave it in the fridge. Like I said, you could definitely use chicken. You could substitute chicken if that makes you feel better. Okay, now to that, I'm going to add some sauce powders. And honestly, I should have added those sauce powders before I added the pork because I have a hard time fitting everything into the jar. So I kind of had to finagle it and push it down a little bit with a spoon. But anyway, in goes sour cream, in goes cheese sauce. And if you don't have the Thrivalist brand of those things, other companies sell those. I've gotten them off of Amazon. I know other brands have sour cream and cheese sauces. So use whatever you can get your hands on. All of these things here are going to make for a very tasty sauce for that rice to cook in. Add the freeze-dried garlic, add the freeze-dried green onions, or you could use white onions. That right there was some chicken bouillon, and then I've just got some other seasonings like cracked black pepper and some salt. I'm also going to be adding my very favorite all-purpose seasoning, which is the Goya brand adobo seasoning. It's got garlic, salt and pepper, turmeric, oregano, and some other stuff. It's just really good. I get that at Walmart. What I did, and I think it fits better in the jar and cooks up better, is I took that freeze-dried cheese, and that's a mix of cheddar and pepper jack, freeze-dried of both, and I put them in my blender cup and I pulsed them in the blender. And that way I can get more in the top of that jar. And press that down, get as much as you can in there, and then you can put on your lid and your ring. Now, if you're gonna store this long term, definitely wipe down your rims, y'all. I don't really show that on my channel, but do that if you're gonna store it long term. And then get yourself a lid on there. I vacuum seal these usually, but I'm not gonna show you that today because I'm gonna make it for you in just a minute. If you're gonna store it long term, probably either an oxygen absorber, or I am a big fan of the vacuum sealing. I just really like to do that these days, so that's what I typically do. All right, whenever you're ready to make this, you'll need to get out a large skillet or a large pot, something kind of big, just because we'll put that entire mason jar full of ingredients in here, that's 4 cups right there. And then we're gonna add 4.5 cups of water. So you need something big enough to hold that amount of food, and then some extra room, of course, because it will expand as it cooks. After you get the water in there, just take a minute and stir. This is super simple, nothing complicated. Give it a good stir, get some heat going, and as it heats, those sauce powders, they will dissolve. And stir it from the bottom every once in a while. You just want to make sure as the cheese that's in this dish, as it melts, that it's not sticking to the bottom. Once you reach a bubble, you can turn down the heat. I ended up at a 1.5 out of 10 on my stove, so that's low. And you want to cook this dish on low and covered. I think most rices these days, like most white rice, you add probably twice as much liquid as you add rice, and then you bring it to a boil, you put a lid on it, and then it cooks for 20 minutes undisturbed, like no peeking, covered for 20 minutes. And that's the way this dish is gonna cook as well. So cover that and leave it alone, no peeking allowed. All right, after 20 minutes, you can lift off that lid, and this is what your dish should look like. So 20 minutes is perfect for my medium grain rice to get nice and tender. And see, it's still bubbling there. You still have maintained that heat. Even though it was on a 1.5 out of 10, it's still good and bubbly in there. But if you'll notice, I have quite a bit of sticking on the bottom of my pan, and I totally anticipated that. I knew that would happen. It's because there's cheese in there. But don't let a little bit of stuck cheese bother you, okay? It's all gonna work out. This cheese should come up off of the bottom of the pan because there's enough liquid still in the sauce to bring that up. Go ahead and give it a really good stir. I've got a wooden spoon, and that's a stainless steel pan, and just use some elbow grease here. Give that a really good scrape and get up just as much of that melted cheese off the bottom of the pan as you can and incorporate that into the dish. That is flavor, and you want that flavor in your rice and not stuck on the bottom of the pan. So if you'll notice, if you can see there, I don't know if you can see, but I got most of that up off the bottom, and now it's in my rice. Now is a good time to taste test, and you just want to make sure that your seasonings are right. Mine were spot on, and y'all, I like flavorful food. I do not do bland. It's just a waste of calories to me. So Mine is nice and flavorful. I didn't have to add anything. Now this part is totally optional, but you can add some shredded cheese. I added Colby Jack because I had it in the fridge. It was available. I put the lid back on it. The stove was off, but I put the lid back on it and let it sit for like 3 or 4 minutes and it's melted. Now, if you want to really be extra, you can put that under the broiler for 3 or 4 minutes and just get a little bit of browning on that cheese. That's what I did here, but this is optional. This whole thing is optional. Like, you don't have to do any of it. If you leave off the cheese, it's still going to be a fantastic dish. It smells amazing in my kitchen at this point. The combination of the chili peppers and the jalapenos and the garlic, the cheese, it just smells so good. If you enjoy cooking with freeze-dried foods, please consider owning my cookbooks. They're both available on Amazon in paperback and as a digital download on my website, thefreezedriedfoodie.com. I'll link to both below. If you own freeze-dried food and want to be able to cook delicious meals with it, then you'll love having my cookbooks. They're loaded with completely shelf-stable meals and mixes. And although I wrote the recipes with ThriveLife ingredients in mind, you can use any brand, including home freeze-dried foods. All right, back to the recipe. It should be ready to serve up now. And we like to serve this just with either a side salad or maybe some veggies and ranch, something like that. You don't need that much. You can also just eat this with nothing else and it would still be wonderful. The rice is fantastic. The sauce that's in the rice is fantastic. The meat is so tender. Those green chilies and jalapenos, they're wonderful. It's slightly spicy, but not overly spicy. If you want more spice, just add more of the jalapenos, more of the freeze-dried jalapenos. So this dish is really customizable according to your tastes. And let me tell you, the pulled pork in here is fantastic. Really, really highly recommend the pulled pork in this. But I also think that pulled chicken that I got from freeze-dry wholesalers, that would be wonderful in here. I think the ThriveLife chicken slices would be great. Like, just so many things you could try. So just look in there. I hope you can see how moist that rice is with that cheese sauce, and then how the little pieces of green poke out here and there from the green chilies and the jalapenos. Y'all, this is such a great dish. And like I said, if you want to make this into a side dish, all you have to do is leave out the protein and maybe cut back on the water by, I don't know, half a cup or so, and it would be fantastic like that. Yeah, so here we are. I just wanted to give this a taste. And let me tell you, I kind of hurried through the pictures in order to eat this because I was so hungry at this point. It was like past lunchtime and I was ready. I was ready to eat. And I had, licked that spoon and tasted a little bit when I was adjusting the seasonings. And I just thought, oh my word, I can't wait to dive in. This is a really yummy dish. Now, a lot of people, when they make this, they'll make this as a layered dish. And this is what they do. Originally, I think people would make rice and then they would add sour cream to their rice. And then they would put that kind of in a layer in the bottom of a dish. And they would put a bunch of grated cheese or cubed cheese in a layer, and then add the rest of the rice and more cheese and bake it. And so I think that's how, like the old cookbooks, the old church cookbooks from a long time ago, I think that's how people made this rice originally. But I thought, why not turn it into a meal in a jar? Why not use freeze-dried ingredients? All of these things I have in freeze-dried form, and I can make this as a shelf-stable meal. I might as well. And let me just tell you, it turned out amazing. I can't wait for y'all to try it. I think you're going to love it. Well, okay, guys, thank y'all so much for watching. I so appreciate you and your support of my channel. I'd ask you to hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and then leave me a comment down below, because that always helps my channel to grow. Here's a scripture verse for you for today. It comes from Psalm 145, verse 14. It reads, "The Lord upholds all who are falling and raises up all who are bowed down." All right, y'all. I hope you have a blessed day and a wonderful week. And until next time, y'all take care and keep thriving.